Thank you, Mr. Perry. I now recognize for 5 minutes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Castro.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for your testimony today. Ms. Stroll, in your testimony, you recommend that the Congress, quote, strengthen the administration's hand by beginning the process to conditionally authorize the use of military force against Iran's nuclear program if the regime proves unwilling to take sufficient steps to ensure that it will not acquire nuclear weapons. And I guess that recommendation gives me some concern based on history. This was the same argument made to justify voting for the Iraq War in 2002. In debates in the Congress, they argued that a show of resolve by Congress by preemptively authorizing the use of military force against Iraq would strengthen the Bush administration's hand in negotiations and force Saddam Hussein to come to the table. What ensued with the Iraq War was one of the biggest mistakes that our country has made in decades. And I don't think any of us, or most of us at least, want to repeat that same mistake. And I'm concerned with everything going on now that we could with Iran. The American people are not looking to get into another protracted war in the Middle East. I think most folks would agree with that. I'm also skeptical that the votes are there for such a war. Skeptical that the votes are there. In February 2020, bipartisan majorities in the House and Senate voted to end hostilities with Iran after the strike on Soleimani. During the congressional debates on the repeal of the 2002 Iraq AUMF, some Republicans attempted to ensure that the law could still be used to strike Iranian-backed proxies. In response, a bipartisan majority in the Senate, including with the crucial support of now Vice President J.D. Vance, voted 60 to 36 to stop those efforts. And so my question is, would you say that we should strengthen the administration's negotiating hand by preemptively authorizing the use of military force against Iran? Do you trust Donald Trump and his administration with that responsibility at this time?
Thank you so much for this question, and I think it's a very important point. So the words I chose were begin the process to conditionally authorize, and I think those two clauses are important in the point I'm making. One is begin the process. That is because I don't think that this decision should be left in the hands of any president without advice and consent and consultation with Congress. And conditionally, because I'm not recommending preemptive authorization, I am recommending that by members of Congress having debate about the conditions and circumstances under which it would approve use of military force, it will send a signal of bipartisan consensus and commitment that that credible military option remains on the table should negotiations fail. And I want to be very clear that my recommendation associated with Mr. Rule is that we should pursue negotiations first, because no military action will eliminate the knowledge and the entire program overnight.
And so I guess what would per your recommendation, what would that trigger be? When do you start down that road?
First, I think the intelligence community should be providing regular updates to members of Congress in a closed and classified atmosphere on exactly what the steps are that the intelligence community understands Iran to be taking. And secondly, I think there should be consultations about exactly what is being contemplated when we talk about military strikes on Iran.
Would you require that we go through a JCPOA type negotiation before going down that road?
I think that testing the diplomatic waters with the regime, either in a multilateral context, in the indirect negotiations that appear to be contemplated at this moment, either way, a negotiated settlement is by far easier to verify in implementation and blocking Iran's pathways to a nuclear weapon than military force, which on the other side, we don't know what regime decision-making would be, we don't know what Iranian decision-making would be, and we don't know what the war looks like on the other side of that. And this is why I think there's such serious issues that merit congressional input.
Thank you. And also for the other witnesses, just for the record, as we're having this discussion, do you believe that we should do a preemptive AUMF?
I associate myself with Ms. Stroll's comments. We should have a thoughtful process in which Congress plays its rightful role as an institution, but the Iranians must understand that endless negotiations aren't the only strategy of the United States.
Sir, thank you. Let me check in with you.
Yes, and I agree with Ms. Stroll and Mr. Rule.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Castro.